Good morning, everyone. Today we are here to learn memory organization, which is a very important part of computer organization and architecture. Myself, Mriganka Chakraborty, I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Information Technology in Haldia Institute of Technology. So, without using more delay, let's start. So, what are the objective of learning memory organization? So, we need to master the concept of hierarchical memory organization, understand how each level of memory contributes to system performance and how the performance is measured. And lastly, we need to master the concept behind cache memory, virtual memory, memory segmentation, paging, and address translation. So let's just begin. So memory lies at the heart of the stored program computer. Previously, we studied the components from which memory is built and the ways in which memory is accessed by the various instruction set architectures. In this module, we will focus on memory organization. Uh, so, a clear understanding of these ideas is essential for the analysis of system performance. So, what are the different type of memory? So, you will be looking that there are different memory which are available in the market, but basically there are two kinds of main memory. First one is the random access memory or RAM, and the second one is the read-only memory or ROM. Now again, there are two type of random access memory, that is dynamic RAM, DRAM, and static RAM or SRAM. DRAM consists of capacitors that slowly leak their charge over time. Thus, they must be refreshed every few milliseconds to prevent the data loss. DRAM is cheap memory owing to its simple design. The next one is the SRAM, which consists of circuits similar to the D flip-flop that we studied in digital electronics. So it is very fast memory and it doesn't need to be refreshed like DRAM does. It is used to build cache memory, which we will discuss in the detail later. The next one is the ROM, which also does not need to be refreshed either. In fact, it needs a very little charge to retain its memory. So it can be used to retain permanent data and basically store permanent or semi-permanent data that persists even while the system is turned off. Now, as there are different type of memory components, so we need to go through the memory hierarchy. So generally speaking, faster memory is more expensive than the slower memory. So when we design the hierarchy, there are certain parameters depending on which the hierarchy is being designed. These are the speed of the memory, the cost per byte, and the size of the memory. To provide the best performance at the lowest cost, memory is organized in a hierarchical fashion. The small, fast storage elements are kept in the CPU. Larger, slower, main memory is accessed through the data bus. Again, larger, permanent storage in the form of disk and tape drives is still farther from the stick. So, if we take a look at the memory hierarchy, the storage organization can be thought of as a pyramid. The smaller size memories with higher speed and higher access time and much costlier components are kept very closer to the CPU. Likewise, the registers, which has an access time of 1 nanoseconds to 2 nanoseconds. Then the level 1 cache, which has an access time of 3 nanoseconds to 8 nanoseconds. Then the level 2 cache with 6 nanosecond and 20 nanoseconds access time. And lastly, the main memory with 30 nanoseconds to 70 nanoseconds of access times. They are basically kept very closer to the system or the CPU, and they are also very costly and higher in speed but very smaller in size. Next, there comes the solid state disk or fixed rigid disk. They have an access time of 35 microsecond to 100 microsecond and 3 millisecond to 15 milliseconds. They are called the secondary storage and they are kept a little apart from the system or the CPU. The size is a little more higher than the previous ones and they are a little less costlier than the higher one. Then there comes the optical disk which has an access time of 100 milliseconds to 5 seconds, and magnetic tapes, which has an access time of 10 seconds to 3 minutes, which can be called as a tertiary memories and which are a little far more apart from the CPU. Then the USB sticks, which has an access time of 8.3 to 33 milliseconds, the removable hard drives with 12 to 40 milliseconds of access time, and lastly, the obsolete drives which are not seen nowadays, that is the floppy disk with 200 milliseconds of access time. And we call them offline memory storage, which are most less costly, uh, higher in size, and very slower in speed. Now moving to the next, we are most interested in the main memory hierarchy that involves register, cache, main memory, and virtual memory. So what are registers? Registers are storage locations available on the processor itself. Virtual memory is typically implemented using a hard drive. It extends the address space from the RAM to the hard drive. Virtual memory provides more space, whereas cache memory provides the speed. To access a particular piece of data, the CPU first sends a request to its nearest memory, usually cache. If the data is not in the cache, the main memory is queried. If the data is not in main memory, then the request goes to the disk. Once the data is located, then the data and the number of nearby data elements are fetched into cache memory. Now, this leads us to some definition. Those are: a hit is when the data is found at a given memory level, or a miss. And miss is when it is not found. The hit rate is the percentage of time data is found at a given memory level. And the miss rate is the percentage of time it is not. So miss rate is equals to 1 minus hit rate. The hit time is the time required to access the data at a given memory level, and the miss penalty is the time required to process a miss, including the time that it takes to replace a block of memory plus the time it takes to deliver the data to the processor. So an entire block of data is copied after a hit because the principle of locality tells us that once a byte is accessed, it is likely that a nearby data element will be needed soon. There are three forms of locality. Let us revise. The first one is the temporal locality, or recently accessed data elements tends to be accessed again and again. The next one is the spatial locality, that is access tend to cluster to a specific region. And the last one is the sequential locality, that are instructions tend to be accessed sequentially. Now, let us move to the cache memory. The purpose of cache memory is to speed up the accesses by storing recently used data closer to the CPU instead of storing it into the main memory. Although cache is much smaller than main memory, its access time is a fraction of that of the main memory. Unlike main memory, which is accessed by the address, cache is typically accessed by content. Hence, it is often called content addressable memory. Because of this, a single large cache memory isn't always desirable. It takes longer to search. Write back, also called the copy back, updates memory only when the block is selected for replacement. The disadvantage of write through is that memory must be updated with each cache write, which slows down the access time on updates. This slows down is usually negligible because the majority of accesses tend to be reads, not writes. The advantage of write back is that memory traffic is minimized, but its disadvantage is that memory does not always agree with the value in cache, causing problems in system with many current users. The cache we have been discussing is called a unified or integrated cache where both instruction and data are cached. Many modern systems employ separate caches for data and instruction. These are called the Harvard cache. The separation of data or instruction provides better locality at the cost of greater complexity. Simply making the cache larger provides about the same performance improvement without the complexity. Most of today's small systems employ multi-level cache hierarchies. The level of cache form their own small memory hierarchy. Level 1 cache from 8 kilobyte to 64 kilobyte is situated on the processor itself. Access time is typically above 4 nanoseconds. Level 2 cache, which ranges from 64 kilobyte to 2 megabyte, may be on the motherboard or on an expansion card. Access time is usually around 15 to 20 nanoseconds. In systems that employ three levels of cache, the level 2 cache is placed on the same die as the CPU, reducing access time to about 10 nanoseconds. Accordingly, the level 3 cache, which ranges from 2 megabyte to 256 megabyte, refers to the cache that is situated between the processor and the main memory. When the number of the cache level is determined, the next thing to consider is whether data or instruction can exist in more than one cache level. Cache memory enhances the performance by providing faster memory access speed. Virtual memory enhances performance by providing greater memory capacity without the expense of adding main memory. Instead, a portion of a disk drive serves as an extension of main memory. If a system uses paging, virtual memory partitions main memory into individual managed page frames that are written or paged to disk when they are not immediately needed. A physical address is the actual memory address of physical memory. Programs create virtual address that are mapped to physical address by the memory manager. Page faults occur when a logical address requires that a page be brought in from disk. Memory fragmentation occurs when the paging process results in creation of small unusable clusters of memory addresses. Main memory and virtual memory are divided into equal sized pages. The entire address space required by the process need not be in memory at once. Some part can be on disk while others are in main memory. Further, the pages allocated to a process do not need to be stored contiguously, either on disk or in memory. In this way, only the needed pages are in memory at any time. The unnecessary pages are in slower disk storage. Another approach to virtual memory is the use of segmentation. Instead of dividing memory into equal sized pages, virtual address spaces is divided into variable length segments, often under the control of the programmer. A segment is located through its entry in a segment table, which contains the segment's memory location and a bound limit that indicates its size. After a page fault, the operating system searches for a location in memory large enough to hold the segment that is retrieved from the disk. So both paging and segmentation can cause fragmentation. Paging is subject to internal fragmentation because a process may not need the entire range of addresses contained within the page. Thus, there may be many pages containing unused fragments of memory. Segmentation is subject to external fragmentation, which occurs when contiguous chunks of memory becomes broken up as segments, are allocated and deallocated over time. So larger page tables are cumbersome and slow, but with its uniform memory mapping, page operations are fast. Segmentation allows fast access to the segment table, but segment loading is labor intensive. Paging and segmentation can be combined to take advantage of the best feature of both by assigning fixed size pages within variable size segments. Each segment has a page table. This means that a memory address will have three fields, one for the segment, another for the page, and third for the offset. So you are feel free to ask any questions. This is the end of the slide. Thank you.